part 2 of neural networks. What I want to do is I want to start with a review, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the code goals that we want to achieve today, because we're going to keep on learning a little bit about neural networks, and then we're actually going to do some code creation, right? We're actually going to start coming up with code. But just like we did in other series, and I think in all of our series, we're not going to write the code ourselves. We're going to use AI to help us with the prompt. Well, we're going to prompt AI to help us with the code, and kind of see how AI can also guide us, right? Because that's all based on the premise that the data scientists of the future will be heavily aided by AI, right? If you're starting from a blank screen in the future and you're a data scientist, you're probably doing it wrong, right? So we're just going to kind of keep on building on that, right? Okay, so one thing I want to get clear from the very beginning is you guys know that I'm a big fan of this book, and a lot of this series and some of the charts you're going to see today, I'm drawing from this book. Now, I want to be upfront with that because I want to be intellectually honest. I'm not trying to steal anybody's work. I'm very inspired by this book. As I told you guys, this book really helped me in my learning. So I want to be clear that I am pulling some inspiration from this, and I am pulling some charts from this. I'm highly encouraging you to go out and get this book and work through this book. But just want to be upfront with that I'm not, I'm not trying to steal anybody's intellectual property. I'm very inspired by the book, and I'm kind of going in the same order that this book does, because I think that the order it does, it's very just very logical, right? But at the same time, I'm building upon the work, right? We're going to be doing AI. This book doesn't really have any AI. We're not going to be using any of the code from the book. So highly encourage you to go out and get this book. And I'm just putting it out there because I want to be intellectually honest about this, okay? All right. So what's a neural network, right? We talked about this last week, about how if you're new to data science, or if you're new to neural networks, maybe you know other models, but not neural networks, it can be kind of intimidating, right? Like the word alone can be intimidating, right? Like neural networks, like, whoa, that sounds heavy, right? So this is it. This is all a neural network is, right? It's a mathematical representation of how the human brain works. That's it. That's all it is. And we talked about that, right? So if we're going to say that it kind of mimics the human brain, then let's understand the human brain a little bit, right? And we basically talked about how there's these cells all throughout our bodies. There's a flow of electricity, from left to right in this case. There's some sort of an input, and in the majority of cases, it's multiple inputs. It travels along the cell itself for some processing and thinking. And then it goes out to these terminals, which basically go out to other outputs, right? And also it's more often than not multiple outputs. So you have multiple inputs coming into this cell. The cell makes some sort of decision of fire or not fire and sends the information on, right? So again, if I'm lifting my hand, there is a collection of cells that are starting from my brain, sending electrical impulses down my neck, down up my arm, and that chain causes my arm to go either up or down, right? And then on this side of my body, nothing is happening. There's nothing firing because there's nothing being sent there, right? Nothing is being asked to be activated, right? So a simple network like this is a representation of that. Here are your inputs. You can have multiple inputs. Here are the additional cells where the information or the pulses travel. The cells do some sort of processing, or rather the nodes do some sort of processing. They decide whether to fire or not fire, and they go on and they send it to subsequent cells. In this scenario, this is a very simple neural network with only one hidden layer, but you can have any number of nodes and any number of layers